Okay, we're gonna do a coding lecture real quick on some form validation. Form validation is probably the biggest thing that you're gonna do with JavaScript and PHP if you've probably already done the PHP class. So I just want to show you the finished real quick. I know this is a pretty ugly, straightforward form. It's not meant to look really pretty, but it's just going to give you some basic stuff. So if you don't fill it in, I'll show you how to make it so it adds a message on the end. And then if you go down, it's the form's designed to go through the form one by one, and it'll stop on whichever one it doesn't have. And I was going to show you how to do alerts because that's just quick and easy. And of course, it's going to come up with things like things are missing. Now, something to keep in mind if you're using brackets, it might do it for me. Brackets has a tendency to be too helpful, and so it doesn't always. When you're coding this lecture in brackets, just open it up in a normal website like this, and don't use the little example thing. Also, I am not going to go over coding the actual form. I'm going to expect you to do that. I will include the files in it for you. If you would like to copy and paste, that's fine, but I would recommend getting a little bit extra practice and take a minute to code the form real quick. Make sure on the onSubmit that it's returning the onValidate form. And I'm going to close our finished one real quick and just go over to our form validation. This doesn't currently do anything because we don't have a JavaScript file. All we have is the form. So let's get started. So the files that you're going to need is you're going to need the form file, and then I put the validation JavaScript file in a JS file. Technically you can do what you'd like, but you should install the JS right here on script source. Mine is JS/validation. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is set up the basic function and let it know that it needs to run. So we're going to do function, and then we're going to tell it to run the validate form function that we set up in the forms right here, that it's on submit return validate form. And in that function, we're going to have several variables. We'll go over those real quick. The first variable that you're going to want to do is variable name equals document dot contact dot name dot value. So real quick, if you're not sure what's going on here, I'm going to show you real quick. So basically what we're doing on the variable is we're going into the DOM and we're looking for the document, which is the whole page, and then we're going to go down to contact name, and then we want to pull the value from that information. So if you look at our form, you've got the whole document, which is the document part, and then it goes down to the name of the form is called contact, and then from there we're after name. Now you can, if you wanted to do like a first name, last name, you'd obviously put in here, you'd call it first name and then last name for the different fields, but we just call it name. And so that's how we're going to be working in the DOM, just going down to collect your variables. And once again, make sure you spell everything right or it's going to break things. Okay, next variable that we want to work with is email. And we want to do document dot contact dot email dot value. Okay, you probably get what we're doing now. Let's do the basic one for all of them. So variable phone is going to equal document dot contact dot phone dot value, and then var message equals document dot contact dot message dot value. Okay, so now basically what we've done is we've gone through and we've collected the information from the form. That's all we've done up to this point. Now to go through and check everything, we're just going to put in a quick notification here to check to see if values are empty. And before this, let's put in a quick message of collect your vars, your variables. Now the first thing that we need to do is we put in an if statement, and this is going to do is it's just going to run through an if statement for each single one. Now there's a couple things that you can do in here. You can put in name equals, essentially you're saying if name equals null, or name equals empty. Then alert you got to enter a name, doc. Okay, so all we're doing here, pretty straightforward, is we're just bringing in, we're saying if there's nothing, if the name field is null or empty, then it's going to pop up an alert. So refresh that real quick, hit submit, and it says you got a name, doc. Now I'll show you how to do the other thing in a little bit, but for now let's just go with alerts. The reason why I'm doing alerts right now is because I want to show you kind of break down piece by piece of what's going on. Now the other thing that I'm going to let you know is, in general, I have found that this works just fine to not do the null and just do the equals. Oh, one last thing, I almost forgot. Up here, we need to put in return false. Now, what the return false does is it stops the function and it doesn't allow the form to submit. So that return false, that's all it does, is it just stops the function and says, whoa, stop, don't submit this form. Okay, so back to what we were talking about. So in this if statement, if you do the email on the if statement, like I said, I found that in general it works just fine to say email equals empty, and it stops, and that's going to work. But that being said, it doesn't work 100% of the time. So the quick and easy way to do it would be to put in the empty, and it's going to work probably 99% of the time without any problems. It's just that 1% of the time, maybe someone's using an old browser, who knows. But so I would recommend that you put in the name equals null or email equals empty in your variables, just to make sure that it is working properly. But JavaScript is just happy to let you just only put in the email equals empty, and most of the time it's going to work just fine. Okay, so let's finish up these real quick. We're going to put in, on this one, the alert for the email of don't forget your email, doc. And then have it return false if it stops there. Then we'll do another if statement, and I made a mistake right here. This is supposed to be email, not name. Okay, the next if statement we're going to do is phone. So if phone equals null, or phone equals empty, then alert I can't call you if you don't give me a phone number. Now obviously you probably wouldn't want to be this rude, but we're just doing this to make it kind of fun. And then of course we're going to return false. And then the last one we're going to do is if message equals null, or message equals empty, alert not sure what you're after, doc. Fill in the message section. And then return false. Okay, real quick, let's just go through and check what we did. I think I saved that. I don't think I did. Okay. And so you should be able to go through and hit, if you hit submit, it's going to say, hey, enter your name. If you enter a name, I'm going to say your email. Now, something that it's going to be doing automatically is it is going to be checking for that @ sign. So, and that's just part of the browser. So if you put in the @ sign, then it's going to say, I can't give you, it's going to go to your phone number, and so on. And I think if it just goes through, it should just reset for you. Okay, so it's not really that, I mean, it is helpful to say that, hey, you're missing something, but there are more validation you can do. A little bit further down the course, you're going to learn about a system called regular expressions. Now, I'm going to show you some basic things on what to do, but when you get to regular expressions, what regular expressions do, and this will be explained, like I said, in the lectures down and when you get into advanced JavaScript. But what a regular expression does is you can put in a pattern of code, basically. That what it'll do is it will go through and check for you whether or not something is valid. It's really helpful for validating emails or anything like that, because it's going to go through and it's going to look for does it have an @ symbol? Does it have a dot? Does it have a variable, a valid dot domain setting? So like a .us, a .com, a .net, take your pick. So once you get into more advanced stuff, that's what you're going to want to do. Now there are a couple things that we can do just to do some really basic stuff that you can code, and I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. But really we're going to leave the more advanced stuff for later on in the course. I want to give you a taste of what you need to do to validate forms in JavaScript. And at the end of the course, we'll actually show you how to validate forms using jQuery, which is in many ways a lot simpler. Okay, so what I want to test for is I want to test for whether or not there is an @ symbol and whether or not there is a dot in the email. And so we're going to put a couple more variables in here. We're going to put one that says @position equals email dot index of and then put in a @ symbol. And so all this is really going to do is it's going to create a new variable called @position, and it's going to go in and it's going to look in the email variable after it's pulled. So the variable is going to go through, pull the email variable, and then the variable @position is going to look at the email variable and say, is there an @ symbol in it? Pretty simple. And then we're going to write one more that is .position equals email dot index of, once again, and this time all we're doing is looking for a dot, because all emails are going to have a dot in them. And then we just need to simply add on the end. This one's going to be a bit more complicated, but not too much. It's going to be if @position is less than 1, or .position is less than @position plus 2, or .position plus 2 is less than or equal to email dot length then we're going to pull up an alert that says that's not a valid email, doc. And of course return false. Okay, now assuming Chrome cooperates with us and doesn't try to help too much, I'll show you what that's going to do. So let's fill out everything in Bugs Bunny. So we're going to put in bugs, we're going to put in bugs @bunny. Now if you remember correctly, that went through last time, even through Chrome's helpfulness, and then we're going to put in a message of test. And then we hit submit and say, hey, that's not a valid email, doc. I'll see if it'll let us do it without that. It doesn't like that. Still not going to let us. But the nice thing about this is you could put in .us and it'll work, or .com, or whatever you want. So let me explain exactly what we're doing here. Basically, the first thing we're doing is the @position of the email. It can't be less than 1, which means there has to be at least one letter before the @ sign, or it's going to fail. And it has to be, the .position has to be less than the @position plus 2. So basically what that is saying is look for and make sure that that position is less than the other one plus 2, and then the .position plus 2 is going to equal the email length. Meaning if the .position plus 2 is greater than the whole length of email, then it's also going to fail. And that pretty much covers your bases on all of your different little email addresses, because all of them have at least 2 characters after the dot. It's always going to be like .us or .com 3, but they're always going to be at least 2. So it's going to be .us, .ca. I can't think of any of the other ones off the top of my head. So it's going to look for at least 2, possibly 3. Now, admittedly, this would allow them to put in as many as they want, which is also valid because there's new ones like .education, .information, all kinds of different things anymore. And those could be an email address. And so that's what we're doing in this, is we're just checking for those parameters of, is there an @ sign, is there a dot sign, and then if they are in the correct positions. Okay, one last thing. I told you I would show you how to do it so it writes out on the end. So if you want, just comment that out. And real quick, instead of putting up the alert, it would do document dot get element by ID. And then we're going to want to use no name dot enter HTML equals you got to enter a name doc. Okay. Make sure everything is spelled right real quick. Nope, we messed something up in there. Enter HTML like that. And then equals the you got to enter a name doc. Save that. Refresh. And then it's going to come up for you and insert that text for you instead of doing alerts. Just so you know how to do it a little bit different way. Of course, you'll need to style that and everything, but that's how you put text into it.